Okay, guys. Hey, welcome everybody to the Mastery Series at Espresso. You know, we're always bringing on some interesting people. And let me just tell you, this one that we have today, Ana Sarabia. Hey, notice that? Did I say that right? From San Antonio, Texas. She's a veteran agent. She's been prospecting. She's been doing a lot of things. And I wanted to bring her on so that, you know, you want to get different viewpoints of where the market is going, how you grow your business, tips. So, Ana, welcome. Glad
Thank you
you
for
could
having me.
Hey, so let's talk about how you got into the business. You know, and that's something I haven't really asked you ever. Is you know, how did you ever get into real estate? You're in Texas. How did that all happen?
It went further back in my life. I wish I had done it when I was in California. Back then, I'm talking 1991. So I had a 3-month-old baby, so I couldn't really go to school. So I bought the male, version. So I got this big, huge books. And keep in mind, I did not dominate the language. I had just moved in from Mexico to California back in 1989. When I started reading Chattel, I'm like, what is that? So this is not going to happen for me. And it sure didn't. I mean, another 20 something odd years, 15 years went by before I had the opportunity to, well, actually it was not an opportunity. It was a sink or swim situation. I was going through a divorce. I knew that the business that I had been doing for years, which was selling window coverings, he was going to keep it because we just, couldn't make it work. And so I decided to take some money out and I started real estate. And then I went to a real estate company. I love the offices. So I'm like, this is where I'm going to be. And that's how I went to school for a full 45 days, Monday through Monday. I left children in the care of my mother. And that is how I got my license.
So this was like a survival thing. Hey, I'm going to get into this business. I want to make some money. I'm getting a divorce. And it was a survival thing. So then you got in. And how long has it been already? You've been in for like
2001. So that's 20 years. So basically, I jumped into real estate with knowing nothing about it. Although it's not that I'm being modest, but I knew I had the drive and I had the need. There was no plan B. So I started calling. Back then you had a book that was called The Crisscross. I could see back then. So it was tiny, tiny little letters. So I just jumped into it and just started calling people and taking a lot of phone duty. I was about to lose my home in foreclosure when I closed my first deal that was $600,000, which for San Antonio back then was like
huge,
super million, list. So I was able to close it. I got $12,000 that I still have, in a frame. That was my first check 6 months into the business.
That's not a bad check.
And I came into the foreclosure office like when you're safe on baseball or softball, here's the money, don't take my house away. Paid 3 months that I had backward payments.
Wow. So that was a big deal. Big deal event for you. And so when you got in, you started calling right away. Why did you do that? I mean, what made you start making phone calls right away? How did you find out about it?
There was not back then the training that we have now. I mean, everybody was doing their own thing. There was this big, which I heard of, but they were like shooting stars, those programs, Buffy, whatever. I don't even know their names. I obviously could not afford it. So I just got into, someone said, well, you want listings, call. And that's just how I started calling. And I remember, the first listing I got, which was also a high-end listing, just calling, just saying, hey, have you thought about putting your house up for sale? And he said, as a matter of fact, I have. Okay, I'll be there. That kind of, without knowing any scripts whatsoever. And I got a listing that way.
Yeah. Well, I know how you got your listing because I know how you talk. And so you had to take the rejection. How did you handle that? Because you're brand new, you're making these calls. I guarantee you had someone that said click or rejected you. How did you handle that?
Well, not only the rejection, but the one dialer one at a time on a regular phone.
Oh, you didn't. Yeah, that's right. There was no dialer.
A cell phone then. And well, I mean, it was hard because ultimately I had 3 kids at home and I wouldn't see them. I would get into the office really early and then I would leave about 7. There was no plan B. there was no space for me to fail, to be honest with you. So I just kept grinding at it. But here's the big thing about it is, I really believe that I'm a driver, and my drive was huge. I mean, like I said, you know, feeding my kids, putting a roof over their, I mean, there's no bigger why in life than a mom trying to put a, you know, roof over her children's heads. So I can tell you that I did what I had to do based on talent alone. And it got me pretty far. I mean, I was almost rookie of the year back then. But then this is life starts going on. You get comfortable. I got this, you know, and I start making a decent living. I mean, it was making, when I, you know, I was selling blinds, selling what, $60,000. And that was huge for me. I don't even know how I supported my family back then. But anyway,
Right.
and then I start making this money, and I'm able to like pay more on my mortgage, on my new mortgage, things like that. But keep in mind, I'm a high D. I'm extremely, I'm not, you know, I'm just, my pride is huge. But for the longest time, I stayed 4, 3, 6. I mean, it was enough to have a great living, go on vacation twice a year, support my kids. And that was that, you know, I mean, work would fall on my lap, honestly. I mean, things would come to me. I wasn't calling anymore.
Right.
So this was just my going A to P. I mean, I was there. It was naturally coming to me based on my talent alone. Then I started looking, and it took a long time. I mean, then, okay, of course, the kids grew, and teenager problems are a lot harder than baby problems, okay?
Yeah.
Single parent,
Exactly.
you know, mother of 2 very high Ds also, where I would say, this is not a democracy, this is a dictatorship, and I'm Fidel, deal with it. That was my kind of report, you know? So I was balancing home and work. But then I started looking that compared to other agents, I was nowhere near where I needed to be. So then, of course, I took 7 bowls. I was in MAPS coaching for so many years, I cannot even, but nothing really happened, Bill. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm extremely ambitious. I think I got this. I have my natural talent, but I'm still stuck now in 7, 8 million.
Why? Okay, 2 things. So first of all, the fact that you're a single mom, and there's a lot of single moms out there that have to prospect. I want to ask you, how do you juggle the kids and prospecting? Because that's something that's happening right now with a lot of people. How did you do that?
Well, so since I have 2 phases of my life, the first time when I had to prospect to get something going, there was no plan B. So my mom, thank God, she was with me, and she was able to take care of the kids while I stayed at the office. But then I fell from the prospecting wagon for many, many years. I wasn't prospecting. And then when I started learning that I had to prospect again, I can show you, because I started tracking my prospecting, 3 contacts a day. And I'm like, I'm done, 3 contacts, bye.
Why do you stop? What makes someone stop? I don't get that.
Because you're not, see, the student is not ready to listen until he's ready to listen. And granted, I took 8 bowls, and they say that you have to call. But I look at my tracking sheets, and there was always an excuse to say, okay, I'm done. I have other things to do, you know, take care of administrative, whatever. I mean, there was never a great excuse, but they were always good enough excuses for me to say, I'm done with prospecting.
Let me just say one thing. For those of you that don't know what BOLD is, it's a training program for 8 weeks that people at Keller Williams were taking for a while. And she took it many, many times. And then, you know, what happens is you think you know it all, and then you fall off the wagon.
It's even worse, because you're like, man, I got this. So if I could share something, there's no get rich, you know, in real estate or in anything scheme. Really, honestly, you have to do the work. And I wasn't doing the work. I gave always myself an excuse, but now I was prospecting. I was paying the dialer. I mean, you have no idea for how many months I paid the dialer without using it, and paying double lines for me and my son, who wasn't even calling. So lots of faucets open, lots of, how do you say, soberbia? I was so proud of me that I could never phantom the idea that I was a total failure, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, the ego gets in the way.
Yeah, I have a huge ego. Of course I do. And then, you know, my MAPS coaching, which is another kind of coaching, was not working either. I went from coach to coach to coach. Nothing was changing. However, I thought it was changing. Then out of, I don't know, you know, I took this little other, not one-on-one coaching, but like a, you know, like something like this. There's 100 people listening to someone.
The
So
group
I
thing.
jumped into that coaching, and then a few months into it, I was in Austin and you were there. And I started, you know, I'm still there. I've been taking scripts, okay, forever again. Yet when I'm talking on the phone, there, you know, you guys are giving me feedback and I'm screwing it just incredibly well. Why? Because I go into my, you know, driver mode. I'm the talker. I just went after it, and I just, you know, in Spanish we have a say that says se fue como hilo de media, which is like a whole, you know, when you pull a thread and the whole thing, that was me talking, you know, I just flew.
So wait, let's go back for one thing, because this is interesting. You started prospecting, it worked. You're a single mom, and there's stress going on. And then you have to be that other person. You're living your life, you got the kids, and now you have to make the calls and eliminate the stress. Just want to get, because that you made it go real easy, but that's hard.
Well, my stress now is even harder because now that I really, so I'm not there, okay? I'm not where I need to be by any means. Then COVID hit, I was ready to have, for this time, the best year ever. And then COVID hits. In the matter of minutes, I lose 4 deals. But the reason why I say my stress is higher now is because after training with you and understanding that there's no BS, there's really no justification. I either make my numbers or I don't. It is that simple. And yet I can still show you my tracking sheets. A few months back, I was still doing 10, 13. Okay, it's been 5 hours, 13 people, I'm done. If I show you my tracking sheets now, every day I have 25, 30, and it's 3 hours or more. For the first time in the 20 years I've been doing real estate. My stress is higher now because if I don't meet those numbers, there's no peace in my
It's an internal mechanism that you put inside of it. So when you're looking at people that are out there that are dabbling at it, because it's a numbers game, basically. I mean, when you're using Espresso agents tools, by dabbling in it, you're not making it work. So what did you learn from increasing your contacts? What did you figure out from that?
Well, number one, I had to have the right things to say because I finally understood that there's a structure to the call. There's a path. I don't have to invent the wheel. The wheel is already there. I just have to put it into my vehicle because I'm the vehicle. So the wheel is there. Just, you know, I found the happy place where I could finally put it together. And the other thing that's helped me a lot, that the ability to listen to myself, which is brutal. I'm brutal with myself in every way. So I criticize myself.
So you listen to the recordings
Yes.
back.
Yes. And the shift now, when I first started listening to myself, when I was like, oh my God, I suck. Now I look at it in a different way because now I also finally understood that I have the tools. I can be generous with me, you know. I mean, this is a work in progress and it will always be. So I can feel good. I can tell where I blew it. I can tell where I did great. And I'm like, yes, you know, I mean, that's where this is going. And
how important is that to you think? Because, you know, we have the recording feature at Espresso, and I'm not really sure. People don't want to use it because they don't want to hear themselves. How important was that for you in changing and getting better?
I mean, this is going to probably be a commercial to Espresso, but I have to say I was a Mojo user for years, okay? For years. And they also have the recording feature, which it doesn't really work because so the great thing about this Espresso system is that you have the contact. I can go to a button and call, you know, excuse me, push that one and I can listen to the recording. Whereas on the other system, it's just a whole bunch of random recordings. So you cannot tie it together. So now the way I use the recording is I'm calling. This person comes in, I have little notes. But if I need more information while I'm talking to them, I'm listening to my recording so that I can see what the conversation was about. So now I sound more natural with the people that I'm talking to.
Yeah, it is painful at first when you first, I'll let you drink your water. Because I know, and let me just say that the reason why it's painful, everybody, is because you're hearing yourself from inside your head. So now you're listening to this audio feed coming from the outside, from your ears, exactly the way the person is listening. So what did you find out about yourself that you had to change when you started listening to the recording?
Well, I mean, evidently now I have more tools to know that, again, there's a structure to the call.
Yeah, but what did you stop doing? You heard yourself, I
Oh,
gotta stop.
I just started, I'm not going to say that I stopped being myself, but I started to control myself in the way I speak. On my natural way, I'm very loud, I'm very fast, and I'm very aggressive. And so by really listening to myself, I would think, would I like someone talking to me that way? You know, and so, but now I know even more, because now that we're studying personality, so I can really adapt. People that are like me, it's just like boom, okay? So are you selling, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it is an art. That's all I can say. This is truly an art, and you can wing it only so long. And most agents will wing it for life. But the difference between those of us who really do this in a passionate way and expect great results, and the ones that are just another day calling, is just, it's 180 degrees.
How much time do you think you spend now that you're using the recording and the tools? How much time do you spend working on getting better, do you think, from before?
Oh, wow. Well, I wasn't really spending time doing it any before, because really, to me, I've been in 20 years in the business. What else do I need to know? You know, I mean, so it was one of those things. I just, of course, it's stupid to look backwards and say, I wish.
Right.
But had I done this early on, my life would be completely different right now. I mean, I just know that if I've known what I know now, and there's a lot of young agents out there, and, you know, I'm starting to bring, I want to bring one with, you know, to
Yeah.
us here, because if they can save 20 years of thinking they know everything,
Right.
it will be a great service to their life, you know.
Yeah, because, and then now we have this changing. So let's say in the 20 years you've been in, you've changed kind of the way your approach is now. You actually, it sounds like you're refining yourself, but then the market changed from the beginning till right now. What have you seen that has changed for the business that may be to your benefit versus the negative? What has changed for the positive, do you think?
Well, I know that once COVID hit, and I hear it all the time because of a lot of the people that I speak to when I'm prospecting, saying, well, no, my agent told me that because of COVID, we needed to, you know, hold back on putting a house in the market.
Right.
Having the tools, the skills to be able to, you know, play that with them and say, excuse me, they told you what? And have factual information to tell them that is not accurate. You know, the market is still going. Or, you know, having those tools now at my disposal make a big difference, especially because a lot of the agents out there are not using them. You know, I mean, because like I said, the great majority are just going with the old scripts or the old way. Those of us that are calling. So out of 100% of agents, I don't know how many are calling, to be honest with you, but out of the ones that are calling, I'm not really sure that maybe 20% have the right tools or skills.
How many contacts are you making
a day?
Yeah.
So like I said, now my minimum is 20. I've been basically now cutting it at 30 almost every day. It takes me anywhere between 3 and 4 hours.
3 or 4 hours. And then what are you finding the results are now versus before? You're adding more contacts, but last time you weren't making, or before you weren't making as many contacts. What happens now that you're making more contacts? I mean, obviously we know we're going to get more business, but what have you seen happening now?
Well, I'm probably a unique case because, like I said, a lot of my life, a lot of things fell into my lap. Okay, a lot of business fell into my lap. Keep in mind that a lot of my business used to be focused to international buyers. Okay, those buyers are gone. Not only because of the exchange rate between pesos and dollars, which went off the roof, but because of the border closure, the ability to be able to send money, things like that, okay? So that's number one thing. So all of a sudden, my business is basically gone. Had it not been because of staying on task, calling, and getting prospectings, I would be dead in the water. The last 3 listings I've gotten, they're all for sale by owners or canceled. They're not from my friends. They're not sphere of influence. They're not past clients. This is new business. And the only way I was able to get them is because I had the right scripts to be able to overcome all their objections.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, so let's talk about that process because this is going to be interesting. So the FISBO, you said something and said, okay, I want you to come over. How long did it take from the point you first talked to them to the point that you got the listing? Like how long did it take to convert them?
A long time, because first, okay, so this is a step process. Okay, so first you got to get good at feeling comfortable enough to call them on the phone. So my life before, it was like, oh my God, I got to start calling.
Yeah, and Anna is the most patient person in the world.
So just imagine this, you have to
Yeah.
start calling and then deal with these people. So that was a challenge, to start calling.
Yeah.
I was afraid of talking to people because
Right.
I didn't know what to say. So every call was different. There was no pattern. There was no plan. Okay.
No strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, no strategy. So that was phase one, prospecting. And that was a challenge because that's when I would say, okay, 10 people, I'm done. You know, I'm not going to go through this nightmare anymore. Once I started getting comfortable with what I was saying and having the mental mindset to say, they're home, they're happy, and they want to talk to me. You know, those mantras that really work, and knowing what to say, I started seeing, and I could show you my graphs. I mean, I can start seeing, okay, contact, lead, nurture, appointment set. So now I can tell you, you know, that, like, for instance, this week I had 4 appointments. One got canceled because it was a for sale by owner. They sold it. I spoke with her today and she was really gracious. But what can I do? She sold it. Okay, that's one of those.
Right.
The other 3 I've gone to. One, I am not taking it. You know, it's one of those, I'd rather let you down, turn you down, now that let you down. I'm just not going to take it. You know, it's not worth it.
Right.
And now I'm still on the other 2. But if you ask me, when did I ever see 4 appointments in 1 week? Never, ever, ever. It was one every other week, things
Wow.
like that.
That's exciting. Let me give you a question that Tammy says. She says, I know of some high performers that work the phone on certain days. Do you call every day or certain days of the week?
Every day. Well, Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday, every day. What time do you start?
Oh, that's a great story. So when I first started doing this, I would start at 11. Why? Because I felt that had someone call me at 8, I would tell them to go, you know.
Yeah, right.
Now, I also discovered, you know, my accountability partners. It's people we're on Zoom and we are calling. Everyone is calling. So that makes you feel like less of an island. So then I started calling at 10. Then we went to 9. Now I start at 8:30 in the morning.
And how do people react at 8:30 in the morning?
I don't care. Some of them might be pissed. Some of them will not pick up, but I don't care because now in reality, I finish earlier. Now it's usually 3 hours, 4 hours, 3.5 hours, and I have my 30 contacts for the day. Whereas when I went later, see, the problem is that a lot of people, when you start calling later, are really upset because you're the 15, 20 call of the day.
Right.
So in essence, my belief that calling later would work better, now that I can, you know, compare the numbers, it's not really true. I get better results in the morning than when I work.
How much is this is mental, do you think? You know, how much is this finally getting your business to where you want to take it is mental versus skill?
Well, I'm a strong believer that limitations are self-imposed. At the same time, you know, talent alone will only take you so far. So it is a combination of the right mental attitude and the right education, you know, coaching that comes to be in a place where you can really grow to the levels where we just look up and see, you know, if they're as far as the stars are. I do believe that my kids are grown. I have, you know, now this is personal. Reaching those goals to me is personal, and I'm going to get there. Yes or yes. I mean, I don't see it another way, you know, but
And I know this about you, and I think it's important to say that, you know, raising the kids, you have a special needs child, and there's other women out there that have special needs child. So you had a special needs child, you had those kids, you had a lot on your plate, and you still have to make those calls, and you can't bring whatever happened a couple of days ago or an hour ago into the call. So I know there's a lot of, even though, you know, you're a driver, you can't be a driver on every call.
no.
So you've got to control it. So now what do you see with the COVID situation going on now? have you done things differently? Have you changed up some things? What's happened now to the business with the COVID issue?
So I guess after the first shock, it did shook me. I mean, I was stunned to like, are you kidding me? Now we're going through this. I mean, it's always something.
Right.
See, in my life, I had great excuses for failure, having a special needs child, my husband leaving me with 3 kids. I mean, I could always, my parents getting a divorce early in my life. I mean, I always said I could have been in drugs and nobody could have said anything because I had every excuse on the book to throw everything, you know, and just feel sorry about myself. And it is true that the smarter, not the smarter, but the more aware you are, the more sophisticated your excuses for failure become. So that was my first aha in life, that it was up to me to choose how I choose to look at my daughter, like the cross to bear, or the opportunity to do something bigger and better. Mm. And it took me 13 years. For 13 years, you know, she was the reason I could cry just by talking about it, you know. And the same thing, and that same thing works in everything, you know. You always have great excuses, you know, but at the end of the day, they're just that, excuses. It's in you to see it as a challenge, blessing, or as an excuse. So it's the same thing in my business, you know. It's like, I just feel, you know, that now COVID is just another thing. Are you gonna choose to look at it as, you know, your cross to bear, which, by the way, this is now everybody's cross to bear. It's not even just right. You or me. So after I got over that first victim, oh my God, no, COVID, it was just an opportunity. I said, okay, so here's what we got. And there's nothing we can do about it, but deal with it. And now my thing is, this is not going anywhere. This is here, just like my daughter is here to stay, God willing, for many, many years to come. And how do we deal with it? So now adapting, you know, to the new game. But at the end of the day, it's just that life goes on. People are dying. People are being born, getting a divorce, having kids, moving out of state. So really nothing's changed.
And so going to the FSBO houses, how are they reacting now? Going to the FSBOs and going to the houses and doing the previews, or going to do the listing presentations. How's that changed a little bit?
Well, I first prefer to do a Zoom meeting like this one to gauge the motivation, because I just discovered I was a social distancer before COVID. I really don't like showing homes, going into, you know, I really like working here. I mean, this is. So the Zoom for me was a great thing, because that way I can kind of gauge motivation. But like when I go to the meetings, I'm wearing a mask. I do have the advantage that I own my Matterport camera. So what part of my script is the ability to be virtual. So, you know, eliminating those buyers that are not a good fit, but it's just a tool. That is just a tool. Like you always said, I mean, that's just a flower in a vase, you know, just like towels or whatever. But at the end of the day, you know, I come into people's home. Then we do the recording of, you know, the video. And basically that's it. But everybody's functioning the same way, you know, just wear your mask. Some people tell me you don't have to wear it. I do it because my daughter, it's, you know, she has pre-existing conditions, and I'm not going to risk it, period. So for me, it's a no-brainer. But
so the tools, let's go. There's a couple things you do uniquely with the Espresso. So you got Espresso, gives you the calls, you do the recording. What other tools are you using? Because you were doing some other things with the video also. So after with explain how you're combining that with the Espresso too, because that's interesting.
So based on, you know, what we know, that face-to-face contact, and being that right now is not such an easy thing to do, after I talk to someone, I let them know that I'm going to send them some of my information. So I record a quick video on BombBomb that I can text or email to them, and that just puts like a little, because keep in mind, I mean, 30, 40 agents are going to be calling the same person. So how do you set yourself aside? So I think, you know, not that it's ever giving me any business, but at least when I call them back, they go, oh yeah, I saw you. So at least you're one little step ahead, you know, the rest of the people who did not make that extra effort to put your face in.
Good. I like that. And so the other thing you said, and again, I mean, you know how I am with tools, but the follow-up on the FSBO has been the biggest question I get a lot with people that are using the tool. So what are you doing to follow up every week to keep them engaged to you? Like, I mean, what do you, necessarily the tools, but how often are you contacting them to keep them in the game?
So I gotta admit, I'm in a transition place right now, and my CRM is Espresso. So basically, when I'm on the live call, I put my quick notes, I have my recording, or sometimes I don't, because sometimes, like if there's only 3 for sale by owners, instead of jumping in the dialer, I will do the call from my cell phone, put my notes in there, and I just set up the appointment. So in the appointment tab, I put, do I need to call them, send them an email or a video or whatever. And
Right.
That's what I'm using as my follow-up.
Good.
So
So are you getting with it weekly? Is it weekly contacting? Or are you every other week?
It depends on the call. It depends on each call. You know, I determine if they tell me I don't want to talk about. So we also have our AH, you probably know what that stands for, file. So like every so often I call the AH file just to see how they're doing, you know, because they're not going to remember me. I used to say, oh, you go to hell too, and eliminate them. Now it's like, they're not going to remember me. So get over yourself. This is not about me. This is about them. So I give it another shot like a week or so later.
That's a whole new one for me, the AH file. We never talked about the AH file. So now they forget about you. They don't remember you, do they? They have no clue. These are the people that gave you a hard time on the phone. You wait another week or two. They have no clue who you are. You call them back. I've seen people get listings on that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit that since I do my script with, you know, the international buyers, not everybody uses that. For me, it is an edge. So sometimes they do remember me. And yeah, from sometimes that you already called me through whatever. But next, you know, then I do put them out of the AH file. I just delete them completely.
Yeah. So they're done. All right. So now we know hourly that you're putting in for prospecting, just to get an idea of contacts, because I think sometimes people spend too long on a telephone conversation with someone, or the cell phone conversations. So you want to be able to get 30 contacts in 3.5 hours, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. And in those 3.5 hours, you do that for 5 days, you're at 15 to 20 hours a week of prospecting, solid prospecting.
Yeah.
What do you get? How many leads do you think you get from doing that a week?
Well, I will let you know in a few, because, okay, so I started being this is a work in progress. So I don't, you know, it's been since I started networking with the Atlanta team that we're really on this much more seriously. I guess I'm 2-3 weeks into it. So I don't have a metric to give you. All I can say is that I haven't seen a week without an appointment. And this is going to probably be the first one without an actual listing, because I don't see where the next listing is coming from. I mean, I'll keep calling.
Yeah.
But my point being, in the last couple of weeks, I've had a listing a week, which is something that is becoming more consistent, if that makes any sense.
And you don't have any team members. This is just you. You're all by yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have an assistant that does, you know, the administrative customer oriented service. But as far as, see, that's always been a challenge. Of course, my ego tells me I should be having this huge team. But to be honest with you, I still have a long ways to go because of how aggressive I am and how I expect people to function at my same level. And that's not the majority of people. So I still have to determine if I want to manage people or do real estate and interior design, which are my passions.
What books have been the most helpful for you in the last several? You guys, it's like you got a little cough there.
No,
I'll let you
I was looking for it.
Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. So tell us about that, why that has been helpful. And the book is called Versatile Selling, and it's a green book. Why has that been helpful?
So if I told you how many books I have in real estate, selling, self-improvement, and they're just there, they're virtually gathering dust or actually physically gathering dust. This one made a difference because as I said before, this is a learning, process. And part of being able to connect with people is understanding what makes them tick.
Right.
Understanding that only 25% of people worldwide are like me, and that just as much as I can talk to my mom and she drives me off the wall every time I talk to her, another 20, quarter percent of the world population functions that way. So if I'm spending all these hours calling, I have to make every contact count. And this has helped me being able to connect. I'm nowhere near mastering it, but at least I'm starting to see, where this is going. And I just was able to implement it on a listing presentation. And I blew it for a totally different reason with that guy. I discovered he was an analytical, but then I started giving him architecture and design tips, and he's an architect and designed his own home. So
good, good. So you related to him really well. So the book is about personality styles and understanding them. So what you're saying, you want to get really good at picking it up really quick, right? So when you're on the phone prospecting, you're listening, right?
But I have to say something. Since this was a work in progress, this was book number 1. So it was not until I really knew how to have a conversation, not be scared of the objection, but to, in essence, be able to know what to say to people on the phone. So this is stage 1. This other one is step 2.
Step 2. Yeah. So 2 good books, exactly what to say. And the other one is versatile selling. All right. So now what's the future look like for you when in continuing to develop you? Where do you take your business now? You've been in it for 20 years, from a potential of production and everything else. As I get all blurry on you real quick, let me fix that. Where's it go? Where does it go now?
Well, so I'm still hesitant of saying the level that I will reach, because that's another part of my personality. So I need to see it there, but I also need to know exactly how I'm going to get there. The only thing that I can tell you for sure is that I am in control of this. So this will go as far as I want it to go. I am 53 years old. I am not working to feed my kids anymore. That it's been taken care of. I have a great house. I drive an awesome car. I have a rental property. I go to vacation. So this now is personal in the sense that I want to see this grow to the point that I would still let me enjoy my life, because my goal right now is also create great experiences, not just make money. I love money in the way that it provides for the things I want. I'm very vain. I love jewelry. I love traveling. I like, fancy things. But that's not what drives me. What drives me now is to create great experiences. So as far as my business goes, I do want to see this at a, maybe 15, 20 million. I'm not sure that I'll grow a team. That's something I'm starting to consider. Just because I think I can shorten the learning curve of a lot of people that were like I was, in limbo for so many years.
Right.
You've been a key component, a partner. You've been my partner in taking this step to my next, level. But in short, I want to be at a level where I can create great experiences while I can still walk and, function and take my business to a level that it's never been.
So before we hang up, a couple of things I wanted to ask you. What advice to shorten that time? Someone gets into business, maybe they've been 2 or 3 years and they've kind of feel like you felt for a while. What's the advice you would give someone right now to get their business up and running as quickly as possible from what you've learned?
You need systems, you need the tools to do it, and you need a partner to show you where you stop. For me, unfortunately, it cost me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and different seminars and blah, blah, blah. I finally found, and I'm not saying this just because it's you, because I will never say something I don't believe just to make someone else feel better. I've just been through all of it. Nothing worked. Now I know that this is working because I can see it in my results. So I guess the coaching would be the third thing. Systems, have a clear path of where you go, the tools and your coach.
So systems, let's break down the system just for a second. I want to understand because someone who's because I don't have enough systems. What are the critical systems that are necessary to have, do you think?
Well, obviously, if you're here, you have the system. That's the number one tool, have a dialer. Ultimately, in this business, there's so many family and so many friends. After you're done selling to your friends and your family, the rest is prospecting. So
Right.
this would be number one system.
Cool, cool. And all right, so we got the books, we got the systems. So how does someone get a hold of you if they have any questions?
Well,
Why don't you type it? I don't know if you can type it in, or maybe someone at Espresso can type it in on the bottom.
I'll type in my website here real quick.
Because I think that people, you know, everybody wants to learn a little bit about everybody's way of doing it. Then you have your way of doing it. What I'm hearing Anna say is that she tried it her way for a while. She realized that she had to learn a little bit about herself. And that's kind of hard when you start listening to the recordings. And gosh, please, if you've not used the recording aspects of Espresso, that could change your business. If you keep listening to yourself for a while, it could actually overnight change your business. Don't you think, Anna? If you start listening to what you're saying, because you always think you had a great conversation. And what happens is you start catching yourself going, oh, I stepped on his words. I should have slowed down. I talked too fast. I should have slowed down. Talked too much. I waved my hands, whatever it may be. So that's so important. So, and the other thing I want to say that you're doing that's kind of unique, you're actually role playing with a group of people in a group on Zoom, and you're in San Antonio, and they're where? In Atlanta.
Atlanta and North Carolina.
And how important has that been for you?
Well, that's been so that was the other piece of the puzzle that fell into place to be able to do this at a high level, you know, because when you're by yourself calling, it gets really lonely, you know, and then the fly flies and you just want to see where it went to and things like that. When you have other people, not only do you feed off of, you know, what they're saying and their scripts, but it also keeps you accountable. I mean, if this guy is there, I will be there too. So it's just a constant retro feedback, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and the hours do go faster.
Yeah. So getting someone, and I think for those of you that are in Espresso Monday Morning Launch or any of the programs that we have, type in you need a role play partner or ask someone that you know and just get it going. You know, and I always say, pull the mask off. Don't worry. Everybody's got look, you know, no one wants to know that you're not doing it right, but everybody's not doing it right together and they're going to improve together. So you actually didn't feel bad about exposing yourself.
No, actually, it's really funny because they're an hour ahead of me. So they start their calls at 7:30 their time, 7:30 my time, and I want to listen. So my real estate day now starts at 7:30, but I work out from right around 5:45, 6:45. Then I have to shower, and my house needs to look like a model house every day, okay, at all times. So now I find myself with my headphones in the shower, with muted and of course video cancel, and I'm getting dressed. And I'm just getting into the zone, you know, preparing myself mentally. So at 8:30 when I jump in, I already heard them go at it for about an hour.
Right.
I mean, this is really crazy. I would never do this ever.
You didn't do this before, ever. But it's critical. I'm telling you right now, that is huge. And we just don't want to do it. I remember years ago paying for coaching. I was so embarrassed the first time. If you get an opportunity to listen to another top producer making calls, it will inspire you. It will, they make mistakes too. I remember being in a class one time. I was teaching in one of my offices, and I made a live call in front of 50 people in the class. I go, oh my gosh, I got to make a live call on a speaker. Thank God. I made 2 of them. I screwed up on the first 2 of them. They hung up on me. The third one ended up being a connection. So we're all going to go through it. So I just want to say to you, you know, I think that you're great. I think that you've fought the fight. You're still fighting. What's really cool is the fact that you are still going out there, putting out as much of yourself in the business, even after 20 years. You're saying, listen, man, I'm going after this thing. And it seems to me you're going after it different than ever before.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really good. So I want to say thanks for being on today with us, man. This is great. And if you have any questions, get a hold of Anna. And if you want to jump on and maybe she'll role play with you, that'd be fun. And so thanks for being on, Anna. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Coach, I really, really do. And you know it.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye.